Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to DuBois, or excuse me, that's not right. DuBois, Pennsylvania, for another video about a place where there used to be a racetrack and there is not anymore. So DuBois used to have sort of a City Park Fairgrounds area, and today we're going to visit what used to be City Park Speedway. Originally opened as the DuBois driving range, this racetrack was built right in town on what later became part of the Gateway Fairgrounds used for the DuBois County Fair. This was a half-mile dirt oval that in its younger years was only used for organized racing once a year, similar to how many other fairground racetracks function. While it likely never had regular races in a year or a track championship, there is some evidence to say that there was more than one event a year for the track. However, the overarching notes are that it was predominantly used only once a year. It was laid out and first used in 1916 for the great-grandfather cars that evolved into basically every other type of auto racing that we have today. The track went on to host big car events in its time, some of which were AAA sanctioned, which is impressive as the national championships and Indy 500 back then were run by AAA. When the racing stopped for World War II, what was known as now City Park Speedway was preserved due to being part of a public facility. Nobody went bankrupt waiting for the racing to restart, so it was able to resume its racing again after the war. DuBois even had an event that was part of the points-paying national championship organized by AAA in 1946 when it returned. In the later years, there appears to also have been two smaller ovals inside of the half-mile that you can see in this picture. This setup was used from 1958 to 1964. The smaller tracks in the corners look like they were more like 1/8 mile or smaller, the smaller one possibly being paved rather than dirt. I have a theory that one of these two, and I think it's the southern one, was referred to as Pine Woods Speedway, which is a lost speedway with absolutely no information about it, but it was in DuBois as well, and I've seen it listed in some places. These configurations look like they met their demise at the same time as the big track, but possibly had lost use earlier. The last recorded racing on this property was in 1964. After the conclusion of its life as a track, the land was left as is for about 20 to 25 years, where the track was still visible. As we've stated in this series before, the constant packing and use of the dirt makes it very difficult for grass to grow. So the land was taken back, and the building that is now Courier Express was the first thing to take the space. By 2004, 3 more buildings were placed where the center of the infield used to be, with a 4th added in the early 2010s. The south side of the track, which was turns 1 and 2, was never repurposed, and so the land is just overgrown brush. Perfect for a goofball like me to go scope out. Alright, so I am now walking to one of the few parts where there's remnants of what was here. So the front straightaway was right along where these buildings are, and then, or excuse me, the back straightaway, I got my bearings backwards there, and then this curve here is the only like remnants where there's any even outline. So this would have been turn 3 right along those trees there. I'm trying not to get myself in trouble by running around too much. So the front stretch would have been underneath these 2 buildings. This is pointed west. Turn 1 would have been that way. This would have been on the inside of the racetrack, and then the 3rd mile would have been right about starting to come back here as well. All right, it should go without saying, don't do this, what I'm doing right now. This is not really a good idea, but I'm down where turn 1 and 2 used to be. I'm about in the middle of the 2 corners here. So this tree line kind of shows along this edge here what would have been the outside of the 2 corners, so I'm more or less standing right in the middle of the 2 turns, and then it would have gone up and over, and then it would have lined back up with those 2 buildings up there for the front stretch, and the back stretch would have been more along that side of these buildings and along where those other buildings were that I noted when I first started this journey. I'm gonna just barely venture in around here because there's a lot of overgrowth. All right, there's the building. So turn 1 would have been right about here and down in there. It's a little bit flatter actually, you can maybe almost tell. Now that was an extension of City Park, which is over here. I'm gonna try to not hit the potholes. Okay, there's City Park right in front of me. We're not stopping, we're gonna keep going. And that City Park extended this way a bit more, and over to where that racetrack was that we just toured around. But here is DuBois, and that's the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed learning about City Park Speedway, and you'll tune in for the next time we have one of these videos where we talk about where there used to be a racetrack. I'm Joe Donahue. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.